I remember the door for as long as I can remember the house. I grew up in an old, quiet house with my father. The hallway was long and narrow, and at the very end of it there was a single wooden door. It was always closed, always locked. When I was a child, I once walked toward it out of curiosity. I must have been 6 or 7. My father suddenly appeared behind me and said in a serious voice I had never heard before, "Don't open that door." I turned around and asked him, "Why?" He paused for a moment, then simply said, "Some doors should never be opened." After that day, he repeated the same warning many times. Whenever I passed near the door, he would say, "Stay away from that room," or sometimes, "That room is forbidden to you." He never explained anything, and the more he refused to explain, the more curious I became. But my father was a good man, quiet, intelligent, kind in his own strange way. He raised me alone, taught me everything I knew, and even though there were many things about him I didn't understand, I trusted him, so I never opened the door. Years passed. I grew older, and the door remained closed. Sometimes late at night, I would notice my father standing in the hallway, looking at that door like it carried a weight only he understood. I once asked him when I was older, "What's inside that room?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said softly, "Just promise me something. No matter what happens, never open that door." I didn't argue. I just nodded. Then one day, everything changed. My father died suddenly. The house became silent in a way I had never experienced before. The rooms felt larger, emptier. Every corner reminded me of him. For days, I walked through the house like a ghost. But the door was still there, closed, waiting. First, I avoided looking at it. Then I started thinking about it. My father was gone now. There was no one left to stop me. Days turned into weeks, and the curiosity inside me kept growing. Why had he protected that room for so many years? What could possibly be inside? One night, I stood in the hallway staring at the door. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "Never open that door." I stood there for a long time. Then I reached for the handle. The door was no longer locked. It opened slowly with a quiet creak. Inside was not a normal room. It looked like a hidden laboratory. There were shelves filled with files, photographs, and strange pieces of equipment. Screens, wires, old computers. And in the center of the room, there was a desk. On the desk lay a single newspaper folder. My name was written on it. My hands started shaking as I opened it. Inside were documents, photos of me as a child, medical reports, training records, psychological evaluations, page after page, all about me. Then I saw the title written at the top of one of the documents, Project A-17 Human Combat Unit. My heart started pounding. I kept reading. The words felt unreal. According to the file, I was never born. I was built, an advanced human-like android, designed by a secret organization to perform covert missions, including assassinations. My entire life had been part of my training. Every lesson my father taught me, every skill I learned, every experience I had growing up, it was all preparation. My father wasn't really my father. He was the scientist assigned to create me. I sat down slowly, trying to process what I was reading. Then I reached the final part. It wasn't typed like the rest. It was handwritten, my father's handwriting. It said, "I designed you for them. You were meant to be their perfect weapon. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as a project. I started seeing you as my son." My chest tightened as I continued reading. "I locked this room because if you ever discovered the truth, the organization would come for you. They would turn you into what you were created to be. And I couldn't allow that." I stared at the page for a long time. Finally, I understood. My father wasn't hiding the truth from me because he was afraid of me. He was protecting me from the life I had been created for. I slowly closed the file. Then I walked out of the room. I stepped outside the house and looked at it one last time. Every secret of my past was inside those walls. The laboratory, the files, the truth. I placed explosives around the house. A few minutes later, the sky lit up with fire. The house was gone, and with it, the life I was meant to live. I left that place and traveled far away, to a small village in the countryside. No missions, no organization, no past, just a quiet life. Sometimes I still remember my father standing in the hallway, looking at that door. Now I finally understand why he never wanted me to open it. Because behind that door was the truth that could have turned me into a monster. And he spent his entire life trying to make sure I never became one.